Excellent. Okay. Um, Thank you everybody for being here, and let's get the show on the road. On behalf of First Beat Technologies, I would like to welcome all of you to today's webinar, Physically Tired or Mentally Weak, a Sports Psychology View of Training and Performance with Dr. Marc Lochbaum, coming to you live simultaneously from the campus of Texas Tech University and First Beat's headquarters in central Finland. Once again, this is Benjamin Jensen, the voice of First Beat, and I'm the manager for all First Beat sports activities in the United States, and I will be your host for today's event. For those of you who are unfamiliar with First Beat, we specialize in heartbeat analytics. We use heart rate and heart rate variability data to quantify training loads in a variety of ways and provide insight into recovery levels and training readiness. The First Beat Sports platform is currently used by roughly 800 sports teams. You'll find teams relying on First Beat Sports to optimize performance, reduce injuries, and to fast-track player development. Today's webinar is scheduled to last around 30 minutes. Anytime during this presentation, please place your questions in the chat section, and we'll have a Q&A after the presentation. If we're not able to get your question in the Q&A, we'll answer it by email after the webinar. All right, moving on, I am happy to introduce today's presenter, Dr. Marc Lochbaum. He is a professor of sports and exercise psychology at Texas Tech University. He also holds a professorship at the Lithuanian University of Educational Sciences. He recently held affiliation at the Kihu Research Institute for Olympic Sports in Jyväskylä, Finland. Locally in Lubbock, Texas, Dr. Lochbaum has been a co-investigator in the largest federally funded grant in Texas Tech University history, the East Lubbock Promise Neighborhood Project, valued at over $24 million. Dr. Lochbaum has published in sports psychology journals since 1993. He's published 60 peer-reviewed manuscripts with hundreds of presentations worldwide. Across his career, his interests are achievement goals and personality in and around sports and exercise contexts. Dr. Lochbaum, we know you have a crazy travel and work schedule, so we appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
You're welcome, Ben. You know I enjoy it. So I want to thank everybody for being here and listening. And I hope you have some questions. So the topic is, as Ben mentioned in the title slide. It's always awkward to have a title slide because you just already said the title. I like to go through how I consult and how it fits in with First Beat Technologies, which I personally use. And so Ben gave my background, and this next slide pretty much sums up my background. I think what happens over time is you realize that you should use many facets of kinesiology as opposed to just one, because I am an exercise psychology professor, but I really have a PhD in kinesiology. So I know more, and sometimes you don't use what you know. You get pigeonholed into one specific topic. And mental toughness is a great topic. It's a topic that everybody seems to want to know about. I've never had a consultant job where somebody didn't want to know about mental toughness. They always want to know about it. So let's get started. So a quick, depending on, you have a lot of people listening, of your background. There are a bunch of sports psychology types, and they're all good. All of them can be very, very successful. And my point is going to be the bottom one, because I'm in sports sciences, to show that approach, or my approach. So there's motivation types. If you're a Tony Robbins type of person, he's a motivation. You have business types. You have people who are truly clinical types, who have PhDs in clinical psychology or counseling psychology. You have professors in education, and then someone like myself in sports sciences. And we all can be successful, but most likely we all have a different take on how we go about it. And so over time, since I started school I started reading in sports psychology and taking classes in 1990s. I think I started my first class in 1989, which is a long time ago. This review article came out, and it's great because it really summarized a lot of stuff that I knew. I had classes that for 30 years, somebody reviews literature and sports sciences about this type of topic for 30 years. Well, I was lucky. I was reading all that stuff while before somebody wrote a review on it. And so we want to think about how to leave out the mentally weak part, but first look at other parts to see if it's truly a mental toughness issue or if there's all hosts of other things that happen that we need to be concerned about. And so this article is a great review that you can pull up, and it talks about precursors of athletic talent based on tons of great research over the last good probably 30 years. And so the point is that there are seven precursors, and so this slide has four of them. And my point at the end, which we can make now, is you don't have to, if you're a consultant listening to this, go, oh, I got to drop all my 18-year-old clients and go find 12-year-olds to get them to be champions. You can do this at any time in your consulting. You can at any time you can assess these and just know where the person's at. Right? There are limits in this world. That dream big is really fun. It's fun to dream big, but there are limits. So the first thing about talent, elite talent, is that the body is correct for the activity, the demands of the activity. Some of those are simple. If you wrestle at 120, weight class 126, my brother did that. Then my brother, an hour before he wrestled, he needed to weigh 126 pounds. That's a very easy one. If you want to be a center in the NBA, you probably better be over 7 foot tall. Then other things about elite people, they learn quickly. They understand technical or cognitive skill demands of their sport. They improve quickly. Again, about the specific part, you're going to teach somebody to dribble or teach the slide's got hockey in the background, a slap shot. That person probably at age 12 or 13, they probably did learn faster than somebody else who didn't become elite. And then there's always the good thing is it's easier to work with elite people because they, in almost every case, their attitude towards training is so exceptional that it's just a joy, to be around that person. So I teach a graduate class, and we use these elite talent precursors as a way to consult, right? It's applied sports psych, and I said, but hold it, we all have a degree. We're getting a degree, a master's in kinesiology in this program. So let's use all the things that we know. So what I did is I have the students come up with an example of something they're interested in, a group of topic of people, a way to consult, and then do number one. Because we can all do number one. We can all go find height and weight requirements for a specific outcome that we desire. So this example is 2 slides. I chose multiple Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, the height and weight of those individuals. And so it seems like an extreme example, but it's not because every team, the goal is to win every Super Bowl. It's not to win one. It could be, but in general, it's to win every single one of them every single year, right? And so there are requirements to doing that. And so this era is from the first Super Bowl, because the first person won both the first two, Bart Starr, all the way to Joe Montana. Then we'll have another slide. And so quickly you can see that nobody is 72 inches tall and nobody weighs less than 190 pounds. So right there, the bare minimum requirements outside of skill, outside of mental toughness, outside of everything, if you're going to win at least two, if you were going to win 2 Super Bowls in that era of time. And then when you go to modern day football, you see there's always outliers, right? There's always going to be an exception to the rule, but overall, most golf, most not golf, most Super Bowls won at least twice are won by guys who are really tall and weigh at least 220, right? So they're at least 6'5", 6'5.5", 6'6", and they weigh 220 to 230, right? So nobody's won who's 6'7", and nobody's won multiple times who's less than John Elway's size, right? And so that really defines a target, what you need to have. And so if I consulted high school football as an example or college, and somebody's really shorter than that, and has all sorts of dreams, it's not to be the dream squasher. That's not the point. The point is to realistically assess what the chances are based on the goal that the person has set. And so the last three parts of elite talent end up being more sports psych like, right? So it does draw interest into the topic of today, that mental weakness, mental toughness type of topic starts to get drawn into that because elite people have personalities that sport requires. The same personalities is required to be a CEO or great at any job, great teacher. You love to do it, you're persistent, you're dedicated, you're determined, and you have some creativity skills. And then point six, we get to that real sports psych part about mental toughness. It does seem that elite people are more mentally tough. They at least under pressure, they seem to always be able to rise to the occasion compared to their less talented peers. And some of that can simply be that they're bigger. It's easier to be mentally tough if you're 7'2" playing the post than if you are 6'5" and playing the post, I would think. And then last, we have sport specific abilities. So in my graduate class, I chose an example. I chose golf because golf is fun and golf has endless statistics. And so I have to show you those. And anybody can do this. If you're listening, doesn't matter what sport you're coaching, you can go do this and determine what type of abilities are required to finish at the place you want to finish. So this slide is fun. It's fun to be confusing at times. This is the Players Championship. If you're used to golf, it's played in Florida. It's called the Players Championship. These are drives, distance, so the y-axis, by place. So the one is first place finishers, second place finishers, third over 15 years. It's 2002 to 2017. And so the first place has 15 people. 15 guys have only won first place. You can't have two people, two people in a year win first. It's only one person. And you can see the bars, the error bars are not error bars, they're confidence intervals. And so if you look across that, you see, okay, the average drive is the black bold line going across. So it's about 285 something. And you see that the variation, 95% of all shots taken by people who finish in that from 1 to 10 are basically between 290 and 280ish, right? Almost every single time, right? So that's a great example of a requirement of that golf course. This is the Memorial. That's Jack Nicklaus's tournament that was played 2 weeks ago. And it's a more imposing slide because using a bar graph. It's a kind of a joke with students who use a bar graph. You can see how small those intervals seem to appear, and they are small. They are small. You have very little leeway driving a golf ball out of a tee box, whether you use a driver, 3-wood, 4-iron, whatever you use to finish in the top 10 over 15 years. So we do that type of stuff. And again, anybody's listening, you can go do that right now for whatever sport that you're interested in. And so to move to the topic, right? So we have the background, right? Because we want to, over this presentation, we want to eliminate, I want to eliminate, as a sports psychologist, I want to eliminate calling people mentally weak. I want to eliminate that with coaches, sports staff, or parents, is to first look through everything else possible to see if the student or student athlete has the requirements that you're putting on that person. Because again, dreaming big is fun, but we all have limitations, or most of us do. Some people don't, but most of us have limitations. And so we look at a cycle that I do when I consult. You educate people on what you're going to do, you evaluate, and you keep doing it over and over and over. And we all know now that elite people do sleep. You see that stuff with Tom Brady with his own sleep gear from Under Armour. So people know that sleep and recovery is important depending on your age, I started playing sports in the 1970s when we were mental toughness was built by not allowing kids to drink water. So I was one of those kids. I was I was punished by you. Water was taken away from us, and really hot, right? Because we were to prove that we could be tougher than we really were, and that's just not possible. Um, there we go. This is my whether I'm a this is a first beat seminar, webinar, or wherever I am in the world. This is my technology of choice. So my first example is softball. So I think in general, over my time, that softball is typically not viewed, not measured. I don't think you can find any data on college softball, cardiovascular load type of data. You can find some on Japanese pitchers. I don't know too many other data sets. So we measured. Well, I'm on a team. I'm helping as a sports scientist. We're not very good. We don't have enough student athletes. Is one of the biggest problems. And so our pitchers do double duty of pitching and playing right field, or pitching and playing first base, pitching and playing right field over and over and over. And so the data I'm going to present from the BG2 here are just up through two of the games, because there's a Saturday that we had, and it didn't matter because we were already done. We are done. We are not going to recover. We're going to lose both of those games. And you can see we have a practice that's on a Thursday, and you can see that's a pretty strenuous practice for a Thursday late afternoon for a Friday doubleheader. This student athlete did homework midnight-ish to 3 in the morning, and then went to sleep for a bit, and then got up. And I have a real bias that will come out here. Then we warm up again like there's no tomorrow, and there is a tomorrow. It's in 10 minutes we actually have to play, and so we wear ourselves out. Then we go to play, and we're worn out. And you can see the demands of the cardiovascular load demands of somebody pitching are much higher, I think, than what people would expect and what they train for. Because I still think that maybe not all, but a lot, you still see you practice and you run some wind sprints at the end and you call it quits, as opposed to really, really doing some cardiovascular training. And so this is a game. You can see the load is enormous. And then again, we also had a Saturday of two games, and the person pitched again and played right field. So that story didn't end well. It's not that all stories, some stories end well. This one did not. Again, we didn't have very many girls on the team, so we did a lot of playing. She fell near the end of the season. She got really hurt, her arm really bad. She ended up quitting, moved away, no more college. So that's not a good ending. Could have been avoided with 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 change, or more student athletes, number one, would have helped. And then some change in knowing we know what happened. We're trying to make changes, and sometimes it's too late. The problems have already built up when you can't make the change. Um, I have a cheerleading example. Again, another sport activity that I don't think people monitor or know much about. And so we're going to show some fall data of a game. We have game data that we're going to show. That's not the story at all, because we would monitor for 7 days, because they have workouts, they have tumbling, they go coach other teams, other children's teams. They go run on their own to keep their weight or fitness under more control. And so the demands become they just build and build and build and build and build. And most likely, cheerleaders aren't built for what the actual game demand is. So let's look at a game. And here's a game. So if we have pregame, again, it's not really like a team sport, but it's the same thing. You see the biggest expenditure or time frame of just wearing yourself out is before the event really is started. So they wear themselves out first, and then they go cheer, And then as the game gets going, they probably cheer with less intensity, right? Because if they're by that time they've run, equivalent of almost a marathon, and then they try to finish strong. And I think all cheerleaders have tons of pride, tons of pride, so they give it their all. And you can see the amount of time spent in moderate vigorous physical activity. So we go light blue to the orangish, all the way to the red is that's a reasonably is that a reasonable marathon? Ben, I don't know if that's a reasonable marathon, but that's a marathon. That's not you're not going to win the New York Marathon, but you're going to at least finish. And so this one student athlete who we have a blog about on the First Beat site, it's made huge changes, huge lifestyle changes during the fall, and a lot of the girls did. The spring kind of rolls around, and it all builds up again. There's competitions, and there's things that are really important, and it's difficult to maintain that just slow this thing down a little bit. And it depends on the person and their body and their abilities, right? If I'm not an elite person, maybe I can't handle the training. This person got concussed twice, and then she was done, right? And that was a sad story. Um, the good news is not every story is sad. That's so to say that every story is sad is that's way overkill. But there are sad stories, but there's a lot of good ones because people do recover. People have trained, they make lifestyle changes, they do all sorts of good things. And then some people, again, they're just more talented. They're just simply more talented. And so for the profession I'm in, it is darn too easy to call somebody mentally weak that people do or coaches do. Again, I've coached, so I've fallen into that trap that there's some mental issue as opposed to looking at actually the person's real abilities and how does the sleep and recovery fit in. So I think the point of monitoring, one is you got to figure out again, we're going to go through the list of what elite people are, how they got there, and we're already there because again, most people you work with somebody who's already 18, 19, 20, so you can't go back in time. Personality never changes under stress. I was this person when I was 5, that person when I'm 25. The difference is I could learn to cope better. If I did something, I had a personality that made me more nervous. I could learn to cope. And so we want to increase the best chances of performance. My joke, I use this slide a lot. Number one thing is the kid needs a bat, right? So we don't have to call them mentally weak. We don't have to sleep better. We don't have to eat Cliff Bars. We just need a bat. Um, we want to do everything we can with monitoring to eliminate any excuses or any poor performance issues based on just the basics of sleeping and recovering and training. I think you should beware of overbearing sports psychology types. And we want to then do this in a manner which we have positive interactions. Uh, Data are always, information is always threatening if it makes someone feel that they've done something wrong. This is somebody who's done something right, right? So this is a student athlete who sleeps well. There's the blue is the training, the green is the recovery, the red is some stress, not a lot of stress, but sleeps great, trains, and so this support staff here, the strength and conditioning staff, is doing a tremendous job of monitoring and making sure that this student athlete is ready for competition. And then what that does is it gives us the kind of that bedrock that we know that from this standpoint of monitoring and using the monitoring that we're doing the right thing here. And so if there's an issue on the playing field, that we go to our list of precursors of elite talent of things that we can change, right? Things that we can really change and look at those things. We can't, nobody gets taller, right? Well, Dennis Rodman got taller. I think Scottie Pippen did, but very few people get taller after they turn 18. You can gain weight, but that's not always the best way to change performance, right? So we do a great job here with monitoring and education, and then we go back and figure out, what is the missing thing. It could be a mental toughness issue. It could be a coping response. It could be bad coaching. Nobody wants to hear that. There's some people who can't coach. So what we do is we combine, or I with great support staff people who enjoy trying to be the best. And so we look at the mix of monitoring and a questionnaire. Some people on our topic might be familiar with things like the profile of mood states of depression, anger, confusion, vigor. Um, get some of those measures. We use the first beat quick recovery test. And then you kind of need an understanding from the coach or the staff of, is the student athlete playing well or not? So is the person performing well? And then we have a profile of what are they doing, how are they feeling, are they playing well? Then we can again assess truly if there's something else that's going on. So part of that process is number one is always education. Like I've said before, it's, wearing a monitor is not a reason to punish somebody or reward somebody. It's just information. It's simply information that we want to see that can match up to uh, I like to see match up to, in a way, to a questionnaire of their personal feelings, and then hopefully it matches up in some manner to the coach or the team. Right? Golf is easy. Individual sports are easy because it's a score. It's just that person. Team sports are very difficult because I could do all the right things and not play. And then that throws things all out of whack. I do all the right things, but I never get to play. I do all the right things, but I'm on a team that's poorly coached, so we lose, right? So then it goes very quickly, in my experiences, to people being not mentally tough, as opposed to the coach not being a bad coach. Um, when we use any of these measures, whether it's BG2 output or a questionnaire output, we've got to report back and be very careful of what we say and do, because well, I do. That's me. I'm the one who's consulting. Coaching, my analogy, I've coached. So I've made plenty of bad mistakes or bad decisions. So I'm not blaming coaches. I've coached and I've messed up. Coaching's like golf advice. You can hand somebody a golf club, tell them one little tweak, and man, that it is just a tremendous improvement in the golf ball flight. You can say a small little thing, just as small, and it can turn it all wrong. I think that's the same thing when you hand over a report with all the data, all the colors, all this. You got to really be sure you know what it means and be able to communicate that so we keep going in a positive manner. And last, I think that's last almost. Uh, I use that checklist. I always have it on me. If anybody, all the people who are listening now, which we greatly appreciate, you can do that right now. Right now. I mean, men's and women's 100-meter Olympic, that's easy, right? You just go find the times and you know exactly what it takes to win a gold medal. It's a very small window of leeway of time, right? Other things have greater confidence intervals of how you can get to the top. I think it's key to incorporate this support staff with the education, so that everybody knows what you're doing as opposed to just some type of, I don't know, renegade sports psychologist trying to help. Ben, that is it.
Excellent. Let me just do another mic check. I've had a few tech issues, so can you hear me, Mark?
Okay, I can hear you.
Excellent. That's step one. All right. Appreciate the presentation. A lot of good information for us, and let's go ahead and let's hop on to the question and answer section. Anybody that's still with us, it's still not too late to post a question. Just go ahead in the chat
Oh, I
window,
see some.
post it,
Yep,
get to it.
I
All right.
see a
Well,
question. So
right
should I
there.
answer those? This is awesome. We have questions. I love questions.
Go for it. So, do you have any athletes? Sorry, do you have athletes use self journaling?
We do. Well, that's a great question. Let me answer it correctly. We have we I usually dictate it, right? So that's not self-journaling would be I would say, hey, journal your thoughts. I would say there's people on the attendees list who know me well. They know I dictate too much. But I'll give them the specifics of what to self journal so that I can translate it into usable knowledge. Right? From a research standpoint, I have publications where people did self journaling, and you go through that and you pick things out. As an example, there's a really good consulting example. If you have student athletes write their goals for an upcoming event, and they use a knot like "Don't let my dad down," "Don't let the coach down." That's a great way of using self journaling without a lot of structure. And and statistically, the kids who use words like "not," or "can't," or whatever, they are under a greater, they have more stress, right? And you can go in right then and there and show them about changing their self-talk through their goals to improve performance. The long answer, the short answer is yes, I use self-journaling. It's a great technique.
Okay, thank you. Um,
Yep,
and let's go next question, related to when you were talking about the cheerleading program. Did they make
yep.
any adjustments to the cheer schedule after you were able to present the data to the coaching training staff?
Yeah, they did. So the number one is there was I think let's see, five of the girls who chose, right. It's not forced on them. They chose to monitor themselves over a week, right? Much longer periods of time. And those girls I know made significant life changes. And then the coaching part, there were changes, big changes, where the morning type, very early morning workouts were changed to a much later time in the day, and I think everybody appreciated that. It's a tough business, cheerleading. Ben, it's a tough business.
I believe that after we looked at some of that data together, it definitely changed my perspective on what they do.
Yep,
But
yep.
I have to say that had to be rewarding for you, at least in the sense that there was some practical application of they
There
actually
was.
did make those
It
adjustments
was.
according to the data.
In softball, we made adjustments as well. We made huge adjustments. We got it to where the pitcher could walk to right field if they were going to pitch in the game, which they were, right? They were going to pitch. They got to walk out to right field when they played right field. They got to walk back in when they were in the dugout. They got to sit. And, you've been here. It's hot as all get out. But they at least got this. They didn't have to wear a jacket like in pro baseball, but they just sat in the dugout. They didn't have to cheer like a wind-up toy, and they could just relax because the other team had more kids and they're over at the Holiday Inn Express having a smoothie, right? And we're just wearing ourselves out. So we made huge changes, huge changes. So that was rewarding.
Okay.
So we answer this question: how to remind yourself about your goals when times are tough and you lose motivation, or it's just inborn ability? That's a great question. Um, you have to post them. Um, what I do, what we do, one of you got to post them on your bathroom mirror to remind yourself. Every one of us in this chat room, we wake up and we go to the bathroom and we brush our teeth. We do it. We do it every single day. And before we go to bed, we go brush our teeth and we go to the bathroom. And those goals need to be posted right there because if we're not elite, and sometimes what elite means is you have people around you who are always reminding you of your goals so you don't lose motivation because all those people rely on you for their income. All right, so if I'm a tour, the U.S. Open's going on right now, those people have handlers. They're going to help them as much as they can to maintain focus and stick to the plan. Whereas it's more difficult when you don't have people helping you stick to the plan. So it's your bathroom mirror. Go, another one. What measurement in HRV is related with grit weakness? Oh, if I have, um, um, Ben, help me for a second because my mind has, I know the answer. If I have variable heart rate, right? If heart rate variability is higher, I would be higher in grit or mental toughness, right? So in my interval is not variable, right? We want to have a variable interbeat interval so we can handle stress better. That would be the measure that
I
I
think,
would think is related to grit.
yeah, that's a tough question.
That's a tough question. Yeah, that's a tough
It's
one.
because it's really wide open to there's so many different measures of HRV. We talked about high frequency, low frequency,
Yeah, yeah.
SST, but yeah, I mean, Odyssey in general, we want to see higher HRV, especially you'll see that at the nighttime when recovery is the most important.
Yep,
So,
yep.
which one's associated with grit and weakness? Definitely open to interpretation.
I mean, it's associated in the literature for 50 years. It's definitely associated with lower somatic anxiety, right? So I would feel whether I'm mentally tough or gritty or whatever, I would at least feel better going into the competition, and that's step one, right? I just feel better going into it, right? So that's our high intensity training, our breathing techniques that uh, helps us with our interbeat interval. I see other
All right,
people
excellent.
typing. I see somebody typing that I know personally.
Well, if another one doesn't fire up here, we do have another question that was, so you have a lot of data about multiple days of monitoring. So what are the benefits you can see from getting 3 days of data as opposed to, let's say, a single day of data?
Um, I think that you see the full week, Ben, right? Because let's think of a student athlete's life, and we'll go to the softball one, because again, or a cheerleading one. They do homework, right? A lot of kids do homework. A lot of kids, do all the right things, and then they go train on their own, which isn't really the right thing, but maybe they feel they need to, right? And so they go do that, and then if I only measure the event, right? If I only measuring the softball game itself was overwhelming, right? Positive in a matter, but measuring the Thursday practice was the eye opener, right? And because the team had there's so few kids on the team, the drills were for a team of a larger team, so they're great drills, a lot of fun, you just wear yourself out because it's a drill for 30 kids and you have 11 doing it, right? So monitoring the full week, 4 weeks, is really key, and that's what the girls did. The cheerleaders did that. Those girls did a great job of monitoring themselves, for an extended period of time, and did a great job. Somebody on this list was one of those people, and best week ever is going on the road, right? They get to sleep on the bus. They get, it's awesome, right? It's a great way to learn how to do that. Um, okay, Katie
Yeah,
Munger.
let's hop on to the next one. So yeah, we've got one that comes in, and I think this relates to
As
every
you
single
spoke
program
about, one
that you
major
get
thing
to.
is being aware of how you inform the coaching staff to do.
So basically, how do you get around the fact that these coaches just want data to
Yeah.
see who's working
Yep.
hard and who's not?
I think number one, great question, Katie. Number one, you gotta ask them about performance, right? So number one has to be, because it's a performance-based thing. So if I'm a coach, let's say it's an American college coach, as an example, even if it's not football, right? You can make a lot of money, right? So that's number one. So it's number one is keeping my job, right? So keeping my job is the effort meter mentality. If that's the traditional training effort meter mentality, is I got to keep my job, and so we got to work harder. That's my experience. That's just my personal experience. We're going to work harder. And so if I don't see red in the in the output, that's all bad, right? If I don't see somebody above 90%, then they are lazy, they are this, they are that. If the training results don't seem to be what the person wants, right? They're losing games, whatever it is. That is the go-to. And I think it's showing people what that really is with actual data in the literature is one great way of what do elite people do. What does elite soccer data look like? You know, Man City versus somebody. There are data out there on so many teams. What does that look like? Number one, right? Um, there's really good NBA data, and people don't get in the red zone because they do. They can't dribble the ball. Right? They can't make decisions. Right. So I think you can use those types of data to show coaches what really happens at the top levels and then to scale that back to your level. I hope that makes sense, Katie. But the
That's
data's
always it.
out there.
I
Yeah, go
think
ahead,
a
Ben.
great example now is, and what you probably noticed too, that in the media was, there was a tech company that did the data analysis for the Cavs, and they said LeBron James was the slowest player on the court,
Yeah, that's it. That's what I was
and
trying to think of. That's what I was thinking. That,
anybody that understands that is, that's a it's a joke in the sense because he explodes and then he walks,
yeah,
explodes and then walks, and that's what they want him to do. That's how they built their offense around it. And so um, it's always you have to be
yeah.
so careful with the data and the interpretation.
Yep, you do. I mean, I work for the, I don't know, it's public knowledge. I work for the Knight family. Um, so you got Bob Knight, Coach Knight hanging around. I work for Pat, and Pat worked for the Phoenix Suns. And if it's Steve Nash, right, we're not calling Steve Nash out. He's a two-time NBA MVP. You can't play offense like that and play defense like that 82 games in a row. Not possible, right? So there's points where you look at that data and say, okay, here's where you need to rest, right? So you got to rest up somewhere. Okay, do
I think
high performance
let's
athletes use?
yeah, go ahead.
Yep, sorry, yep. Oh, love questions. This is school. I'd always desire school to be as a teacher, right? Do high performance athletes use more process goals or end goals? They use more process goals. Um, and the end goals are there as kind of that ultimate motivator type of thing, but the day to day is what I use. It's kind of this right, what's important now, right, type of mind. I think that's what elite people do, right? So that's the process goal, things that they need to get done today, and that's a great use of your bathroom mirror. Is to you can put the dream up there, right? But the dreams or end goals can seem very, very distant at times, right? It's just, I think media overplays that because whoever wins the U.S. Open on Sunday there'll be some very teary-eyed, promo at the end that they had a picture when a child that they were going to win the U.S. Open. I don't think that's exactly what motivated them to go practice every day. Um, okay, you mentioned the use of self-report instruments in addition to first beat device. Just often, I I'd like to once a week. Once a week is the answer. Um, with a soccer team with a great strength and conditioning staff, what we did is we did retrospective questions back a week, and I saw her name. She's here, but Emily May is she did that, and Emily presented those data. We did that at the Association for Applied Sports Psychology Midwest Regional back in the spring, whereby we showed that we used that retrospectively every week. And so this soccer team was based on Mondays is the off day or the kind of the first day of the week of strength training or recovery. And so that looked back because games are Friday, Sunday.